everybody. Thank you for joining us for our review and discussion for Glass. This is Chris. With me is the whole round table this time around. We all really wanted to see this and talk about it. We've got Ian.
Hey, people.
We have Jason.
Hey!
Okay, there's Jason. And we have Isaac.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
All right, so you'll have to excuse us. We don't normally do four people at one time. I know, jokes. Go ahead, throw them out. But because of that, much like the Innuendo, this can get a little messy, and so just it's going to be a lot of fun though. When we just actually are getting going here really late because we just had a really good time talking about movies and games and stuff like that. So I think we're going to have a good time with this. You can continue the discussion with us in the comment section. Let us know what you feel about the movie, the pros, the cons, what you liked, what you didn't like. And again, if you want to fight, I'm ready to fight about it. Go ahead and put the comments below. I'll fight you about it. Okay. So there it is. So we got all of us here. In fact, let's go in the order that I just said. We'll start with myself, and then we'll go Ian, Jason, Isaac.
Sure.
So we'll start with overall opinions of this movie. You knew going in, it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I think this is the first time he's ever made any kind of trilogy or sequel to any of his other films.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So overall opinions, I'm going to just start by saying, for the most part, I enjoyed this movie, but M. Night Shyamalan definitely Shyamalan himself at the end.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
So I'll start by saying that. Ian, what'd you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I can't describe in any greater detail how much people want to see this, of course, myself included. I mean, Unbreakable, we look back now today before the MCU and everything else, hero movies were just sort of like a coin out in the pond, just kind of tossed out there. So I've been really, really eager to see this one. And, I'm really in the same boat. Overall, I did have fun with this one. Overall, I did enjoy it. But in the same hand, this really cuts into itself a lot. I think there's a few really aimless moments. And in fact, I think for one of the first times, this is really one of his films that telegraphs itself in a lot of ways. A lot of ways.
What do you got, Jason?
Yeah, going sort of in a little bit of a different direction. Visually, I was absolutely captivated. Just the way that he sort of played with color and how that relates to different characters. Like every character had a very specific color, and where they were had a color to it. Just it surprised me, but I enjoyed it a lot. It was sort of like a thing that kept drawing me in a little bit more. Was just they really popped, and it was very visually distinctive from anything that I've seen in a while. So I enjoyed it very much so.
Now, Isaac, before we get to you, I just want to say real quick, because I did not specifically state it, even though it should be obvious and it will be in the title. This is spoiler heavy. This is a review and a discussion. We're going to talk about everything, and this is an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so it will be ruined if you listen to this before watching the movie. So, because we're going to talk about it all, and obviously the surprises and all that is very key to the discussion. I'm sorry, Isaac. So go ahead. What was your overall view?
So in the age of overdone superhero movies, I found this a wonderful breath of fresh air. I'm going to go ahead and put it down right now. This might be my film of the year.
Wow.
I thought James McAvoy, especially that scene where he's dying. I mean, if he doesn't get an Oscar, then they need to throw out the award show, because
I got a little teary-eyed there.
I did too. As he went through, and less than 5 minutes or 3 minutes, went through about 8 different personalities, and then his final line being like about like how it's okay to hold on the light. I was just like, here's my heart.
Yeah,
you can have it.
Yeah.
And James McAvoy, again, if he doesn't win some kind of award or get some kind of nomination, the Oscars are a fraud.
People real quick. People brought a bloody riot about Split, that he didn't, get one for that, and people were saying, "Oh my gosh, how did this get missed?" So it misses twice.
He is so much better as this character in this movie than he was in Split.
Yeah.
You could tell that he just even having made Split, he was much more prepared to play what was obviously an extremely challenging role.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went hard, and just like I don't know, it seemed like he felt a lot more comfortable as this character, and he really just owned it. Anya Taylor-Joy, as always, still want to marry her on the dream list. I fell in love with her back in Morgan, and Anya, if you ever hear this, let's go out sometime.
You single lady. Single. No, do you mind if I stop you there?
Go for it.
Okay, just because you're talking about something that I wanted to focus on a little bit. Like I said, overall I really enjoyed this movie. But honestly, one of my complaints, and even though I was glad to see her in here as Casey again, I felt the relationship between her and specifically Kevin from the Horde character, I thought that whole relationship was very contrived. And it seemed like it was pulling off a connection. Now, and that being said, I just saw Split 2 days ago.
Right.
Gotcha. And I saw Unbreakable again yesterday. So because it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, I knew I needed to be prepared. So and he'll sneak all kinds of things in there. I thought that was contrived though. My complaints that I have in this movie are heavy, but they are few. Right. And that was one of them. Was that I'm like, I don't remember this relationship between them. I mean, there was the moment she talked with Kevin when she had called his name and stopped the beast, and he came out and it's like, okay, well here's Kevin, and this is obviously the most sane of all these people. And there was a moment there, but I didn't really feel like there was a connection. Yep. And again, this movie takes place, what they say, it starts 3 weeks after. Yep. So, but I just didn't catch that. I felt like that was kind of inserted in there to give a reason to bring her in.
I agree with that a little bit, but at the same time, if you remember like the whole Beast part where he finally sees that she's a cutter, that's one of the most powerful, I think, scenes in Split. I guess I was a little wary at first, but I got it at the same time because I think she was able to share that connection of we've both been through tremendous trauma, but we're dealing with it in different ways. And that's why I liked it. I like that. But I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. I was very skeptical coming in this film, by the way, because I kept seeing all these critic reviews that were just blasting it, and I was like, "Oh God, not another The Happening or something." Because I do like Shyamalan, but he makes a lot of bad movies. I mean, like for every hit he has like 3 flops. Like, I'm sorry, The Happening.
He's dangerous. He is dangerous. Yes, what he does.
I mean, he's edgy, and I appreciate that about that.
And I gotta be honest with you, I think in his many movies, this is definitely one of those ones where he built up something beautiful, and then he just crashed the fucker down.
Interesting. Okay, and I want to talk about that a little bit later in this podcast.
Okay, no, that's what we're here for.
Perfect. But yeah, to wrap up my whole thing, definitely, I thought it was a phenomenal film. I was very happy I spent the money on this one. I mean, the trailer looked almost too good to be true, and then I saw the critics, and I was like, this is going to be another Suicide Squad, where I got super excited about it. And then, I mean, dude, like I said, I almost cried. So,
yeah. Man, grappling with the whole relationship, I want to jump off that real quick, especially between Kevin and what you have, between Anna's character. The first thing that came to my mind when that first happened, I said, "Oh man, I'm really struggling here not to think Stockholm of the Year." But then
yes.
But then you delve into it a little more, and you really think about it. I said, "Okay, what if?" I really think the counter angle to that, if you adopt an angle of someone who's actually been through. I mean, you can't directly, of course, you haven't dealt with it yourself. But if you stop and think about Split, and then really think from that perspective a little bit, you reach a bit on it, but it's there. So, I see that. That really felt contrived, like you were saying, Chris, when it first came up. But the basic grounds for it are there, and I think
I agree, but I agree with that. In my opinion, stating that Stockholm syndrome is definitely a part of that.
Right.
I mean, this is not a healthy relationship. These are not healthy feelings that she has for him.
No.
Again, he ate her friends.
Yeah.
Did you take it as them trying to make her romantic? Because I guess that went over my.
I
think I didn't either. Jason, what do you think? We haven't heard.
No, I mean, I can see where Isaac's coming from. There were a couple of like moments that I was like, well, that's a little weird. But I think with that kind of relationship, given that sort of mix between obsession and horror, those kind of moments are inevitable, and I don't think that they absolutely take away from the character building.
Kind of going back to like this whole movie being off comics, as I guess the way I saw it was she sees the real hero, the behind. She sees behind the mask, the guy that's broken, who's just trying to cover up, his scars with all these personalities, while the world only sees these 23 other different personalities. And that's why I was like, that makes sense to me, because she can bond with him over their trauma.
Right.
I don't disagree with that. There's obviously connection there of, we're broken individuals and the feelings that come from that. But again, I want to point to the fact, and it's not because I necessarily feel that you're wrong, it's just that I thought it was a bit of a stretch.
For sure.
He ate her friends.
Maybe they weren't very good friends, Chris, okay?
Yeah, they were picked on her. Don't you remember that in the beginning of the Split? They didn't even want her to be there.
That's true. They weren't very good friends, but he did in fact eat them. And he did kidnap them and torture them and split them up and then decide that it was dinner time.
Yep.
And was about to eat her.
You almost eat somebody, and that's all you hear about for the rest of your life. Well, you remember that time you almost ate me?
That's why Jeff just knocked himself off. He was like, I can't deal with this.
No, hey, you know what, though? If for anything else, it was a reason to have, like you said, Anya back in there. So...
Yeah.
It's Anya. Get it right.
Anya? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult your future girlfriend.
No. Wife.
Whoa.
Future wife. Okay, so let's talk about since we're doing, we'll kind of go on with that. Some of the things we like the most about the movie. For me, and especially it has to be the David Dunn stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing where he's been and what's been going on with him. I have to be honest with you. And Ian, you had alluded to this a little bit, how this movie was a bit predictable, and I think that was definitely the case here.
Right.
But it was great to actually, if anything, see it confirmed, because I remember thinking about this just even after watching Unbreakable again last night, and I'm like, I wonder how this all played out. I bet you him and his kid ended up working together and doing this stuff, and something horrible happened to his wife, and he's still in security somehow, and it's like boom, 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 boom. It's like
Nice.
But they still did it. They still did it in an awesome way, and they could have I should say M. Night Shyamalan could have very, very easily gone off the rails on this, and gone in a very unrealistic fashion. But he kept that whole thing very grounded.
I thought he was. When they kept talking about all those security cameras that they put in, I was like, oh, I bet you they bought them from his shop, and now he's going to use his son's going to be some crazy hacker and get him out or something stupid, Like that was
I didn't even think of that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That they could have gone in that direction. But I mean, what can I say? And Ian, you had brought it up a little bit. At a time, not only were comic book movies were pretty much in their infancy, at least as far as this current generation and where they've built from. You're talking at a time, this movie came at a time when comic books nearly blew themselves up as an industry. And, but this movie came out and it brought things to a ground level where things were ridiculous in large part. And to see this character continued was fantastic. I'm not so thrilled with how that ended. But we'll talk about that. We're going to obviously have to have a whole segment about the ending. So that in itself is a huge topic. But yeah, seeing him again, seeing James McAvoy as Split. I mean, that's just
that was amazing.
It's just phenomenal. It's the most tragic part is the fact that he's dead now, so we don't get to see it again.
Right.
So
right.
I want an origin story.
Well, we kind of got it, but yeah, I was gonna say there's only like 3 weeks in between these two movies as far as timeline, so there's not much to play with there. Again, I thought, especially watching Split and Unbreakable kind of back to back, seeing where M. Night Shyamalan has come from one part of his career to the other, and then seeing this movie, really getting a comparison as far as how he's come as a creator, as a writer and a director. He's really come a long way. That was really fun to see, especially seeing this whole story in completion. When I heard the rumors that it's like, oh, this was originally supposed to be a trilogy, I actually didn't believe them like most people, but it's actually true. It's actually true. He had done an interview even back in 2000 stating that he wanted Unbreakable to be the start of a trilogy.
Right.
So now, to what point did we get the original plan he had almost 20 years ago to now? I'm sure it's probably changed at least a bit. But to see that play out, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this movie overall as far as the storytelling up until the last 10 minutes or so. But yeah, overall it was a lot of fun. My complaints are minor. Okay, that's what I got for right now. Why don't we go around and see what everybody else thought as far as our positives for the film?
Yeah, I'll hop on the wagon here. The thing that was refreshingly disarming here was actually something I did before I came in the film, because I literally, catching back up in these movies, going back and especially watching Unbreakable again, really put me in the mindset of, okay, this is cool. I get to back up a second and not put this alongside Thor Ragnarok, or the same way I'd look at something I'm about to follow up in a DC movie or a Marvel film. This is not that. So going back to that time when you really had to have, I think, the narrative push the story direction more, and the characters really carried that in effect. That was awesome to do. I think this one area this shines in is a lot of the screenplay. It's a very triune narrative. In fact, I think this is a double edge. Shyamalan focuses so much on the primary main three characters to the point of almost dehumanizing the rest. That there's others that really just become accessories in this. I mean, Mr. Glass, David Dunn, Kevin, the rest, all other 23's personalities are so highly in focus here. Everything else is peripheral. In fact, even Mr. Glass himself even says it when David Dunn's son and his mother and everyone else steps out. He says, the main character is all assembled. He kind of following this whole comic book, ploy to a fault. So I'm viewing that whole double edge. I'm more in the positive end of that. It's a style that can easily, I think, fall on its face, and that can have trouble holding itself together, but it works here, and because they have really, really well established bases and grounds to it. So that was cool to see. Of course, everything you guys have said about McAvoy coming off of Split as well, and the various different turnabouts you have that happen within it. I will get to a few of my complaints I have about it later, just structurally how things go. Besides the last 10 minutes, and I think some of the build leading up to that as well. Sort of, there's some things that I dock with that overall, but yeah, I think those are my most positive impressions. Chris, you said you're coming more from the angle of David Dunn. I think I'm coming more from the angle of Kevin here. I really saw so much of this through the Split lens. I really enjoyed Split. Out of those, that was, man, I still think that was my fave. Even though McAvoy wasn't as comfortable in that he obviously was here, I liked it, and I especially liked that he had multiple manifestos as characters. The Beast had his own creed that he lived by, he longed by, this idea of the purity of imperfection, and how that collided with the rest of the personalities, how that collided with, actually meshed with Mr. Glass, how he used that, and then how that came in direct opposition to everything David Dunn stood for. That's great. I totally dug that.
Jason, what do you got? What your overall positives for the film?
Yeah, well, I mean, like both you and Ian said, it was more predictable than I would have liked, but stood out to me on a more technical level, because obviously you both covered a lot of the plot points that I had definitely talked about, but I'm going to talk a little more technical. It was the shot composition for me.
Yeah.
Very, very much so, where the camera was at all times. Like that composition shot before the big climax, that sort of fantastic foursome shot, that really stood out in my mind is like, you know, it made the moment so much more pronounced. You know, just where the camera was on which character and how so really sort of heightened moods, established bonds. You know, definitely made you feel like these characters were connecting. You know, very much so, or clashing. You know, depending on what they were trying to paint. The big thing for me though was they knew when to leave stuff out. Right.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes it's better to leave something up to the imagination than show it in full camera.
Right.
And that impressed me the most was the fact that, you know, you resist better as a video storyteller to show literally everything. That was I think the thing that very much impressed me the most on a technical level.
Right.
I just want to chime in real fast and just back up what Jason said, just to, I don't know, just be a little pushy about it. Also because this is something I had actually specifically was thinking about myself. M. Night Shyamalan's ability to tell a story with a less is more kind of mentality is some of the best I've ever seen. Period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's just me interrupting.
You're like back to our regular schedule program.
And agreeing with Jason, just wholeheartedly agreeing with Jason.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I ended. You and Ian covered most of what I was going to say about the plot.
No, that's fine.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go right ahead.
All right, Isaac, what do you got? What's your overall positives?
Yeah.
What you love the most? And we obviously kind of started this conversation with you stating some of it, but what else you got?
So I agree with everything you guys have said. So I'm just going to go over a couple points. One, I thought the score was absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you. Thanks
I
for
thought,
bringing that up.
Man, like, I mean, from the ticking like clock, like you felt like you were counting down to like that giant moment, and I liked how they incorporated that in a lot of the score.
Yeah.
So I thought that was super cool. And actually, the guy that did it, his name is West Dylan Tordson, and he actually used a lot of themes from the score of Unbreakable, which was by James Newton Howard, and he kind of mixed that with Black Lot music back in a couple of months ago. So I thought that was a phenomenal job by Wes. Good job, high five.
No, yeah. Feeding.
And I feel
Sorry, got to comment on that. Feeding
go
off it real quick about the score. The countdown was masterful in that you had the countdown up until the end, and then the climax is Mr. Glass is dying and everybody else does. It goes from a on sync clock to sort of falling apart. It's purposely off sync with the rest of the music. That was awesome. Also, the return of some of the coolest stuff from Split. I think it was like the track from Meeting the Others. West also composed that. That track is brilliant. That first came up when we saw the first reveal of the Beast. And hearing that again here was spot on. Yeah,
they did amazing. The camera work was phenomenal. Like I noticed there were so many shots that they had upside down. That was super cool. Like because it's almost like you almost had to think like your world is getting turned upside down. Mm-hmm. Let's go a little bit more into the plot. I think this is actually going to fade a lot into your guys' comments. So I'll just kind of say my whole part, and then I'll let you guys take. One, I thought I really enjoyed this movie. The whole like convincing them they were actually real. Just real normal people. Mm-hmm. It got me thinking. Like I didn't believe it, but I definitely considered it for a second. Just because everything certainly made sense, and that whole comment that I think Mr. Glass ended up making, like about we can explain extraordinary events through science, but basically just saying it comes down to faith, essentially, which I thought was like that's pretty much in life, like we can always explain everything away, but it really comes down to, what are you going to choose to place your faith in? And as a religious person, I thought that was just super dope. Guys, and this is probably might be the most controversial opinion I have tonight, but I love the ending. I thought that was phenomenal. I thought that was genius. I was expecting, and again, and this kind of goes back into this being a great breath of fresh air, is that every superhero film in the past 5 years has always either been like giant like skyscraper battle or a wind tunnel up into the sky, and and I definitely thought they're gonna fight on the top of this tower like every other superhero film, and he's been setting it up, but to have them fight in a parking lot, that was dope. Like it just felt very grounded. It felt very real. That this whole time we spent almost the entire movie in the psychiatric ward, and it felt like a very grounded superhero film. Now the whole secret society, like we're here to keep balance in the world.
Yeah.
I can see why people thought that was kind of dumb. I actually really enjoyed it because as a person that is a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, believes that there might be groups out there.
Hashtag Illuminati.
Hashtag Illuminati. I was like, it got me thinking. I was like, I mean, it's possible. It makes sense because this, like a lot of urban legends are based off a little bit of fact. There's been studies done into that. So I'm not saying there's a Yeti out there. but I mean, there might be something out there that we don't, know about. And so I thought, it was like, that was a cool angle. I get it. A little dumb. I definitely knew she was a bad guy just from like the get-go. But I just
they actually do a pretty good job of making you not like her.
Yes, they did. And I don't know what it was, but I just did not like it. But I just thought it was super cool to go have everyone expect a giant. Like I was definitely still expecting a giant skyscraper battle when he was like, "We're gonna go to the thing and like leave glass behind," and they just did it in the parking lot. That was cool.
I enjoyed that as well.
The train thing, kind of a little dumb, but again, when you go into a movie like this, especially since it's a superhero film, you gotta suspend your disbelief a little bit.
Right.
I was okay with that. I was very upset that they killed all three of them. I did not see. I knew they were gonna probably kill one of them, but to kill all three of them,
yeah,
I was a little sad. Like, not.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue because that's actually, let's talk about that. We'll go into our negatives then. Again, like I said, I have few complaints about this movie, but what the complaints I do have are pretty heavy, and that's the biggest one. Let me go in depth about that a little bit. So let me just, I'm gonna fight with you about something here real quick, Isaac. What, you didn't like the angle that Kevin's father died on the same train that kind of brought this all up front for Mr. Glass and everything, and
I don't necessarily not like it. I can see why people don't like it. I just accepted it as a part of the movie.
I thought it was brilliant. I thought that part. Yeah, I thought that part was brilliant.
Okay, I can see why. Yeah,
and I think maybe the reason why I like that the most out of all of us is the fact that is so fucking comic bookish.
That is,
and I read comic books here more out of anyone, but that is, and it was just done so well. I remember like watching that, I like perked up. I'm like, look at that shit.
I did too.
As soon as they showed him on that train, I'm like, oh, and I even the person sitting next to me even looked at me like, what got into that motherfucker? I'm like, don't you get it?
Fun fact, Chris.
Yeah.
You'll like this. That was a running fan theory for the longest.
Oh, was it?
That there was actually a connection there. I think through some of the Reddits and everything else. That is, so I guess seeing that confirmed as like a live plot point, I was like, wow, it's almost like Shyamalan like went and read the Reddit post or something. That's crazy.
Sure.
Like, yeah.
No,
I definitely felt like I called it. I felt like I called that. Like I could see that coming a mile away.
I didn't. I did not.
I didn't come up with it either.
I'm glad for you. I felt like
you can probably throw that to, like I said, I saw Split 2 days ago. That was the first time I actually saw it. So you can maybe chuck it up to that. Split has not been in my brain in the last 2 years it's been out. So no, I really, I'm sorry, go ahead.
In the comic book store when the kid's like looking through the comics, that's when I was just like, something happened with the parents. Like he's digging through the parents. And I guess like as soon as I saw the train, I was like, oh, his dad died. Like I got it. Like I didn't even need to see the rest of the. But I'm glad you got the surprise. That's great. Like,
yeah, no, I did. My biggest issue with this movie comes with the ending, and just in the fact that the ending does not fit the narrative of this movie and Unbreakable, and to an extent, Split, and the world building that all three of these movies do. And when we saw the train thing, and I'm like, Shyamalan, you got me, and with your twist, you got me with your twist. But then it's like, the whole thing turned on me when some guy's trying to drown David, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What is this? What, it's like, what cop is trying to drown a suspect on the ground? But and again, that really didn't make any sense, and I think it was kind of lazy on his part, because like, that's not, you're spending this whole time balancing superheroes, but in this realistic world, And I was like, oh, now I got a cop trying to drown a guy.
Yeah.
And it didn't fit. And you're talking about the secret society thing, Isaac, and I agree with you. I didn't mind that one bit at all. In fact, if you go down the rabbit hole with this movie a little bit, I think you'll find that there are these amazing people with these abilities. Where the hell are they?
Mm-hmm.
Where the hell have they been?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a good answer to that. And I thought that worked out well.
Wasn't the cop part of the secret society though?
I think he was. I think he was. But when they first started, I didn't catch on to that. In fact, that whole thing when like he sees her in the diner, he gets his vision with her in the diner, and that whole thing was really confusing until they fleshed it out.
I agree with you there.
I felt like overall it just didn't work with the narrative of. Well, and not so much Split, because Split's basically about a bad guy and introducing a bad guy. Mm-hmm. So. Yes, I know that's not everything that movie was. That's pretty much what it was. But it didn't fit the narrative at all. The first movie in this one of this is we're talking about people who can do miraculous things, and the effect that this can have positively in the world. And yes, I know when I say that, you have to look at the very ending with sending out the tapes. And what Glass had actually, the plan was, you say, oh, I thought we were gonna get a big fight in that tower and all that. No, Glass wanted this fight right here.
Yeah,
and he set it up for this. That was never the plan at all. That was the second smoke screen that he had set up. So, but it felt like the last 10 minutes of the movie just did not do justice to everything else that we had seen.
Here's my thought process with him drowning him, though. I kept thinking of Kevin's. What was the Kevin Spacey Superman movie, where they have the kryptonite and the actor he's crumpled over and can't even move.
Well, no, water's his thing.
Yeah,
that's his...
and that's why I was like that. I was cool with that, and I guess once they shot Kevin, I kind of knew they're just gonna kill everyone, aren't they? So as they're drowning him, I was like, this witch is bad. This witch is bad. I knew it. I knew you were bad.
It's I find it amazing that you guys refer to him as Kevin when I want to refer to him as either the Horde or the Beast.
Yeah,
that's I think that's funny. No, but I thought, I just and I understand that he's trying to say a greater narrative of these characters don't have to live for. For this to not have meaning, and look, it's brought these people together, and the world is still going to know, and they overcome the big bad conspiracy people, and it's just wow, I just felt like that he took this, like I said at the beginning of this review and discussion, he Shyamalan'd himself, and that's when he Shyamalans himself, and that's what he does when he does his twist, and then he does another twist, and then that twist went to freaking level 9,000, and it had, and yes, while it was still trying to tell the narrative, I actually think that point when you see Kevin Dunn getting drowned, I think for a lot of people it's a disconnect, and especially when you're a director who has the reputation that you do, I think people disconnected a lot quicker, even because it's oh, here he is, that's right, here's the guy who made The Happening. Now we're seeing what he can
I just liked it because it went against the entire Disney, Marvel, DC formula of the good guy wins, the bad guys die. He's the hero.
I don't disagree with that, but I think he didn't.
And that's why I was like, no, I totally get where you're coming from. I just loved it because it was different, and that's one thing I always appreciate about Shyamalan. Again, I think he does some awful movies. But the fact that he's willing to be edgy and he's always trying to one up himself, I think that's pretty. I mean, that's the level of trolling I can only aspire to be.
But I guess for me, and something that I, something that I again going back to how this world works that we've been watching. There's always a reason for it. It's people don't just have superpowers. There's reasons for this, and it's not like they can fly or go invisible, but they have these abilities that help them with what they're tasked with. But it's okay, so you have the situation, and it's okay, so the Horde kicked Mr. Glass, and that's ultimately going to kill him. the Horde gets shot, and that's going to kill him. It just felt like, all right, well, it just kind of feels like Shyamalan's like, well, I have to kill Kevin.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, not Kevin, David. I have to kill David. So I'm just going to drown him.
Well,
and I get it. It's like it's very anticlimactic, and at the same time, it also feels contrived, just like the relationship between Casey and Kevin. And it's just like, well, I got to do it just because I'm Shyamalan. That's what it feels like.
there's there's a segue there. Look, this comes back to something I pointed out at the very beginning, the double edge, about how it's sort of it's a good thing focusing so intensely on the main three, and a bad thing at the same hand making others periphery. You're forced, I believe, as an audience to make some jumps here, to make some leaps, especially when you learn about the connection, the secret society, and things like that. You really, it's implied, obviously. Okay, I get it. All the guards and the others, they're all in the pocket. They're all in on this big conspiracy. They're all part of it. They're all there. But you really have to push and connect those dots, and it feels you have to sort of force yourself to say, all right, all this is necessary for this to go on. I mean, yeah, the stuff is there for, like you said with David, but it just feels too convenient. I get that he just came out of, okay, what would technically be for him bathing in a vat of kryptonite, basically, and there just happens to be another, well-placed pond deep enough, to drown him in. But this is where the whole double, I think, starts to, play against itself. So it's simultaneously a huge strength of this movie. This was a weakness in this moment here, I think, for where this was heading, because you really have something quite amazing built. But I think with that in mind, a few of their little facts already mentioned, we don't quite tie the ribbon. And I don't think it's quite as neat as it potentially could have been.
Well, no, I'm glad you say that, Ian, and now I'm going to take the mic back because I'm not done. So, let me just finish with the ending again. Look, and this is something I've noticed with Shyamalan movies, that once he's done what he wants to do with a movie, you can tell he's bored as shit with it. And you have that again with the very end here. It's like, okay, look, I get it. You have Glass's mom, you've got you've got Joseph, you got David's son, and you've got Casey, and they're together, and they're gonna ultimately honor the people that they cared about, and they're gonna, the world's gonna find out about. Look, and again, it's not that I don't think that should have, the end result of the movie shouldn't have been that the world finds out about these kinds of people, but that was just stupid. Okay, these three people should not be sitting. They all just, they're collective people, David and the Horde and Mr. S. I mean, two of them were about to kill the other one.
Yeah.
And I don't buy at all that they're all gonna, they concoct this plan and they're gonna just release this out to the world together. And again, it's not that I don't think that the end result shouldn't have been that these tapes get out, but that seemed really stupid.
Here's an Isaac conspiracy theory. Mr. Glass said this isn't the climax. This is an origin story.
I know.
I think he's setting up. He's setting up another movie.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so.
It's an origin story. He said it. Mr. Glass said it. And I think that would be the ultimate Shyamalan, to say this is the last movie and then drop a whole nother.
No, I don't think so.
That's the ultimate
Shyamalan within Shyamalan.
It's like, I think I actually think that reaction from this overall will definitely make that not happen at all.
Right.
And I understand there's enough in this. There's enough going on, and enough that, like Jason was saying earlier, and I agreed with, there's enough that you don't see that actually can make the conspiracy theorists wonder if there's a hidden plot in this movie that does even connect these three characters more than what we saw at the very end.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, see, Jason. That's why we have Jason here, because Jason sees that shit, and I saw bits of that too. But you know what? By the time the movie was all done, I'm like, you know what? I just don't even care, because the rest of the ending here, the rest of this last 10 minutes was kind of shit. So no. Sorry, Shyamalan.
Rotten Tomatoes right now says it's a 36% for critics, but a 96% for everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
okay,
the ultimate Shyamalan.
It's the Venom movie all over again.
No, I don't
Yeah.
know about that.
But
But
they're making a second one.
oh yes, yes. We talked about that on our last podcast.
Yeah, we
Check
did.
that out on our channel. Okay, now I will pass it by. Now I'm done with my bitching.
There
Now
you
I'll
go.
pass it on to Ian. Ian can do his
Let's
bitching.
just do a quick fun fact that, and I think you actually brought this up, Ian. The kid in Unbreakable is actually the adult
Yes.
kid. Unbreakable, Joseph. So the guy that
yeah.
plays Joseph in Unbreakable, it plays Joseph in this
Mhm.
film.
So cool. So cool.
And
Yep.
That's how you.
Considering the time frame you have between these movies, that is how you do continuity. That made this feel like such a complete, like, cohesive piece, like, to kind of
It really did.
bring you, like, from Unbreakable to here, and that was our link. It's like, wow, I really was sitting here back in the early 2000s watching this, and now here it is. Here's the rest of the conclusion for it. So, yeah, I mean, look, my negatives, really, majority of those came out just a moment ago when I was talking about the stuff that's that you have to make a bit of a push and a leap for, and really, again, everyone else sort of being just static, just there. Again, if you really enjoy that style of like comic book, like, you really having the focus on the main characters, the heroes, the villains, and those dearest to them, there you go. In effect, this is really sort of like a walking graphic novel like that. But for a film, that's usually something you just don't see in cinema, just having everyone else be so ancillary like that. But yeah, really the majority of my negatives, I think, came there in the ending. There, again, the weakness of the whole double edge with how you present characters and how you play them, and that's pretty much what I had.
If it was my place to do so, and it's not, but I'm going to try. If I can come up with an explanation for that, Ian, I would say that the movie that we did get was 2 hours and 12 minutes. I bet you a lot of the stuff that would have fixed that complaint of yours was put on the cutting room floor.
I bet.
And there's probably 20 minutes or so that we just didn't get, which would have pushed this thing over 2.5 hours.
Right.
And we're not. This isn't the early 2000s. We don't get 5-hour movies anymore. We get, if they go over 2 hours, that's a pretty big deal.
It is.
Okay. I have one more, and then I know you guys. It sounds like we're ready to wrap up, but okay, let's talk about this as a trilogy as a whole. I don't even know what you would call this.
You skipped the J-Man.
Jason's not talking.
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
right. And he's not
let him
going to
in.
be talking if you interrupt stuff. But no, Jason, your negatives. Bitch about the movie.
All right. Movie was predictable. I felt like the superpowers were still like, okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm sure you guys are gonna rip me apart, but it felt like the whole superpower thing was very vaguely explained, right? So Bruce Willis's character is obviously like super strong. That's his thing. But like Glass is just really smart. Isn't that his thing?
Yeah.
He's basically genius level intellect, really weak body.
Exactly. That's not a superpower. That's Stephen
Jason.
Hawking.
That's Jason.
That's Stephen Hawking.
I love
All
it.
right.
Jason, you have seen Unbreakable and Split, right?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I saw Unbreakable like 5 years ago. I saw Split when it came out 2 years ago.
Okay, well, I think that's in one of those cases, and at least for me, I give that a pass because they go in depth about these people and their abilities in those movies.
Yeah. So it's been a while. And like Split was more of a character study than I think a particular study of like superheroes.
Right.
And it focused more on the character. I'm like, yeah, there's some weird stuff, but at the end of the day, I think Bruce Willis is the only character that I would still classify as a superpower.
It's funny that you say that, and I'd made a comment to Ian about this actually, like right after I'd watched Split for the first time, and I basically mentioned him. I'm like, because I'm going into Split knowing it's a sequel to Unbreakable, and there's a trilogy just coming out in a couple days, and I'd made a mention to Ian after I texted him after I watched him, like, dude, this must have blown people's minds at the end when they found out that not only is this a sequel, but it's also it's essentially a superhero movie in a sense. It's a I mean, that must have blown their minds at the end. I mean, I'm going into it knowing it, and there's a lot of innuendos and a lot of small things put in there about super abilities and these kind of people possibly being in this world, and watching it from the perspective of knowing what this movie is the whole time instead of finding out the end.
Oh my gosh, dude, that old lady, that psychiatrist, was she part of the thing, like the group?
There you see.
Oh my gosh, the one that he killed. What? Oh my!
Are you okay?
Get that, guys! I just peed my pants.
I'm sorry. So Jason, your point is completely valid. I don't want you to think that was not valid. I was trying to invalidate your point, but I think I give that a little bit of leeway on my end, because this is the third part of a trilogy where, I mean, they can't go into all that stuff. Again, the movie is already 2 hours 12 minutes long. So
Yeah. No,
complete re-explanation of everything. Yeah, if you don't remember that stuff, or if you've never, oh my God, if you haven't seen Unbreakable and Split going into this movie, good luck. Honestly.
Yeah.
Oh,
to be fair, literally all I remembered about Unbreakable before this movie was it was a dude with super strength, and that was about it.
Yeah, I mean, the whole movie is about what these people can and can't do, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So go ahead. What else did you hate about this god awful movie?
Yeah.
Chris will fight you.
I enjoyed the fact that they killed everybody off at the end. I'm with Isaac, like, and it felt good because unlike Infinity War, I know these guys are staying dead. All right. There's no magic revive gauntlet in the Shyamalan-verse.
How awesome would it have been, though, if at the end, instead of the ending we got, half the people just turned to dust?
I think a lot of people are getting sued.
That would have been amazing.
Thanos just comes down on his throne, like. I mean, it was distributed by Walt Disney, so it's possible. Anything's possible.
The ultimate Shyamalan. This was MCU all along. Sorry, guys.
Dude, I was kind of expecting this was all a dream. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
Like, I was like, if this ends up just all being a dream, I'm gonna be very angry.
I thought it was good for I would say for the first 30 minutes, when or I should say the first part of them being in the insane asylum, and like Isaac said, you never fully believe it, but you do start to wonder if that's where he was going with that twist. I was like, is this going to end up being the fact that like all of these guys were delusional and they never left the asylum at all? They've been here the entire time.
Yeah, I was like, don't do that, Shyamalan. Don't you do me like that.
No,
but guys, my mind is still blown.
Other ways. Yeah.
Dude, my mind is still blown about Split, though. I didn't catch that.
Yep. That's actually good. I didn't think of that.
He'll screw you in a completely different way. You won't see it until it's actually half in you, and it's like, oh, you got me, Shyamalan. No, all right, hurry up and finish and get done with that.
The happening all over again.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to talk about this, and we'll get Isaac. We'll get to you about your negatives. I know we've been in this one for a while. I just want to comment because recent conversation just brought it up. What did you guys think of? And it happens in just about all of his movies, but not every one of them. But the appearance of Shyamalan in this movie, and him actually reprising the character that he played 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I thought he was still playing the one from Split. Or is that still?
No. He makes comment to the fact that he had met David Dunn before, which
they
have interaction
at
the stadium that he works at the time, and he's like, hey, haven't I met you before? And then he makes mention of, I think I have, and then he says something about going down the wrong path, but now he's on the straight or narrow, or something like that. Do you think that maybe that was a little bit of a nod to the career that he's had?
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't take it that far immediately, but I look back on it. I mean, I could see him doing something self-deprecating like that. Like, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he made fun of himself about the chicken wings and Splits. So, and he was wearing the same jacket like he was wearing in the movie Split when he was like the security guard, and that's why I was like, oh, maybe it's just like he keeps playing this.
There's nothing saying that he wasn't the same character in all three movies.
That's true. That's true.
It's true.
That's true.
Man, we're just done covering all kinds of stuff.
Boom, Shyamalan.
Isaac, anything of the negatives that you want to cover before?
Oh.
Before we move
I think you guys like pretty much tapped them all. I thought this was a great series of what is a superhero, what makes a superhero. And what people call negatives for these films, I guess I was seen as, like I said, like breaths of fresh air, of just going against the grain, and just being more of a classic superhero movie versus, the Marvel or DC adaptations that we've had today. And
it's like, I think that up, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Because I want to say this, because I think it's not only, I think that's fine. I think that was actually part of the goal. But at the same time, what's ironic is that you're saying, well, it's not like all the other superhero movies that are out, but the movie is the plot points of this movie are so on point.
Oh, yeah.
To be like a comic or be like a comic book movie. And
that's what I love.
Mr. Glass is even announcing it. It's like, oh, no, this is happening.
It's aware of it. It's self-aware and it parodies itself almost. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I felt it felt more classic comic book movie, like versus versus what we're kind of getting today, I guess, and that's what I really enjoyed about it, and I thought the twists were for the most part good, and I mean there's a couple, I don't know, I just as far as you guys have brought up all the bad, I feel like there's not much more. I feel like it's nitpicking at this point.
Yeah, it was more Watchmen than Spider-Man. I get what you're saying, Isaac.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know. I love this movie from start to finish. I think I posed a question a little bit earlier as far as taking all movie trilogies. You have the Blade trilogy, you have the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, blah blah blah. How would you stack up this trilogy as a whole?
Okay, so you're doing a quick comparison to other major comic book or superhero trilogies? Or
just trilogies in general. How would you say this is high up on your list of all-time trilogies?
Let me say this. I don't know if you can compare them. I mean, it's kind of ironic because I don't know about you guys, but at my theater, going into what is essentially a superhero movie, I didn't have a single superhero trailer.
Right.
No, they're all horror movies.
Right. And it's a Blumhouse production too. So, I don't know. I think, well, it doesn't stay on the same shelf as the Dark Knight trilogy.
Right.
Like the Dark Knight trilogy, I don't think that those three movies stay on the shelf with all the rest of the other superhero movies. And I don't know if I can do a comparison. I mean,
yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know if I could.
Yeah, I'm in a honestly, I didn't expect. I'm kind of in a similar boat. I really don't put this on the shelf with Marvel films and whatnot too. Cause I want to say critics had a bit of a shell shock coming into this. We're almost conditioned at this point what to expect from hero movies: the grand budgets, the insane, awesome effects, the weaving plot lines, the epic tales that involve 20+ movies and stuff. And this is none of that. If anything, I really see these as three separate pieces. I understand thematically in terms of the plot, like, yes, this is the film that ties them together, but I think this is just that. This is meant to be the ribbon, the bow tie. I view the rest separate though. Very, very separate, especially Split. I have it fits story-wise, but when I start thinking about that in a trilogy, a legacy trilogy, I'm like, no, I can't do it, man. Can't make the leap.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think unless there was anything that you guys want to say, we can make our final statements on this and give it a rating. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll start. So we're gonna do 1 out of 10 different personalities, and if you expected anything else, you weren't paying attention. Okay. So
you got Shyamalan.
That's right. Yeah, 1 out of 10 Shyamalans, I guess. No, 1 out of 10 different personalities. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I have to be honest with you, though. When it comes down to this, I was ranking, okay, sometimes I go into a movie and I'm enjoying it so much that it's like, all right, I'm giving it a 10, and now we're going to see how many points get taken away as we go through.
Right.
And that's kind of how I was approaching this one. So ultimately, the question came, how many points do I deduct for this shit of an ending? And how much of that gets pushed back because the rest of it was so good. At the end of the day, even though I really didn't enjoy the ending, I can't take away too much for that, because everything else leading up until the last 10 minutes, including the other two movies, was really, really good. So I give it an 8 out of 10 different personalities.
Right on. That's actually hilarious. I kind of come to a similar boat. Honestly, looking at this, the whole movie, and looking at this as a continuous piece, I wasn't in the boat where I put it at 10 at first and then deducted later, but it was just sort of a steady build. And I think towards the end, I was already pretty settled on where I was going to go, and I said, well, okay, how much further can I deduct from that? The fact that this is so self-aware, like I said earlier, it parries itself. It builds on the tropes we already had established and the continuity and everything else. I am glad to go against the critics on this one. This lands an 8 out of 10 personalities.
Jason.
Yes. Okay.
Didn't
I thought we were
expect him to show
going
with it.
Isaac
Yeah,
and then me.
No,
I was
despite him
expecting
trying
Isaac to go next. All right.
No, despite him
I know I
trying to
cut
take
you off a
your-
lot, but
Yeah, no, that is actually your spot. He has to wait. Go ahead,
Woo!
Jason.
All right. So, coming in and, again, it's been 2 years since I saw Split. It's been 5 years since I saw Unbreakable. So I didn't have a lot of that backing me up, to be honest. My memories of both of those movies are relatively hazy, and they just kind of filled in the longer glass went on. But viewing it as an overall piece, I loved it. The world building was good. The absolute focus, double-edged sword or not, the vision that carried that movie through, even to the god awful ending, was very clear cut. And it built and it built and it built, and everything sort of slotted into place. Some of them slotted in a little bit cleaner, and other ones felt a little bit forced. But overall, I definitely would place it at an 8.5 out of 10.
All right. Isaac, what do you got?
So, from an actor standpoint, just absolutely well done. Everyone nailed their role, and I think what's as the kids say on the street, stayed in their lane. No one, I didn't feel like anyone was like trying to outdo each other. They all seemed to work very well together, and I was a little nervous about that scene where you have all three stars in it and just how they would interact, and I thought they did phenomenal. As far as direction, score, visual effects, again, I just think he told a fantastic story without feeling the need to blow his budget on special effects. He very easily could have had this super huge fight on the top of a tower.
Yeah.
They're crashing through floors and whatnot, and he just went the simple route of let's just fight in a parking lot. And I love the simplicity of it. It gave, as a director that had a minimal budget and I had to make fight scenes happen in parking garages, I really appreciated that fact. And and I get where people are concerned, and maybe I got some love blinders on or something for Shyamalan, but whatever people had seen as faults, I found as great ways of going against the grain, and for that I'm gonna go with a 9 personalities.
All right.
I don't believe in perfection, and some of those little flaws, were beauty spots, as they say, but I'm gonna stick with 9.
All right, there it is. Guys, what did you think? Obviously we just had a big conversation about the movie, but we would like you to continue the conversation. Comment below. Let us know what you thought. What did you love? What did you hate? Who out of the four of us, who did you want to punch in the face the most? It's okay if it's Jason. It's okay if it's Jason. Comment below. Let us know if you liked what we brought you. If you can give us a like and subscribe, that would be great. There is a companion piece to this. There is a short non-spoiler review that goes with this as well, that Ian will be putting out for us. So if you wanna share a review with somebody that's not going to spoil anything, you can find that in our channel. But I think that's going to do it. Any last words, guys?
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank
No, thank you all for listening, and rejoice.
Rejoice. Tell us who your favorite personality is in the comments. Out of all the personalities, tell us which one was your favorite, and whether he should win an Oscar.
And remember, kids,
Whether he should win an Oscar.
I mean, if you say no, you're probably wrong. That's all I'm saying.
It's okay but you're wrong. But it's okay, but you're wrong. All right, that's gonna do it, guys. Thank you very much for listening. See you later.
Peace out, everybody. Hey people, thank you for tuning into this episode and taking a listen. If you like our content, if you like what you're listening to, there anything we go over, hey, please, we would not only love to hear more from you, but if great if you could throw some support. You can subscribe right below. Also, you can toss us a line anytime. That's ksawmedia@gmail.com. Of course, you can tune in for our channel anytime for movie reviews, game reviews, a lot of random wacky stuff. Who knows what you'll hear. And of course, our episode each week where we're bringing the nerdiest things we can find, dig up, and maybe not find. Maybe the stuff that just drops in our laps. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We hope to hear from you again later. Take care.